I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Wednesday, December 15th, and we are proud to be brought to you guys by the Pigskin Podcast Network. You can find them at PigskinPodNet on Twitter, or you can search the hashtag TPPN, which you can see right in the top corner of our stream here. We all tag that as we go live. We've got football, basketball, baseball, soccer, wrestling. They do it all. So make sure to search that hashtag. I was trying to line that up perfectly. That's exactly what I was trying to do. It has been a long, long day for me. National Signing Day. Those of you who don't pay that close attention to college football, that's like the NFL draft day for NFL draft people, which is practically all of us NFL fans, right? So it's been a long, fun day for me with that. But we are here to talk some NFL football. Matt and myself are going to recap the Monday Night Football game between the Rams and the Cardinals. Matt will give his top 12 players as we kick off week one of the NFL, the fantasy football playoffs, his top 12 at each position. And then we will preview the Thursday Night Football game, which should be a very good game between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Matt, how are you doing on this wonderful Wednesday?
Well, not because of National Signing Day, but been a very long day here. It started with a monster cold front that swept over that I've sort of been dreading. You know, early in the week, they were like, there'll be gusts up to 50. And then they're like, there'll be gusts up to 60. And then yesterday it was like, there'll be gusts up to 75. Then they're like, oh, just kidding. It's going to be up to 80. And in reality, when it hit, we started getting high 90s to around 100, which was spectacular. And so I thought I was feeling a little crummy because I get anxious when we're having these kind of, I don't know how to stop myself from worrying about like something blowing off my house or whatever. But then my wife calls me early in the morning and she's like, hey, a bunch of people are out with stomach bug here. And my tummy's upset and I'm going to the bathroom. They're sending me home. And I was like, oh, so maybe it wasn't anxiety. And no, it wasn't.
All that matters now is that you guys rest and relax because Spider-Man comes out in a couple days, and we all know that is all that really matters here. We didn't get quite that bad. In fact, we got the opposite of you guys on the weather thing. It was 50-something on Monday, 60 yesterday, is 85 today, but our wind gusts were, I think it was 60 miles an hour. So it was very interesting for someone who puts about, I was going to make a really bad joke there. Now I'm debating on if I should or not. Someone who puts enough powder in his hair that he'd make Tony Montana jealous. It was weird going outside and seeing like having the wind blow all over the place. I made a joke with that someone today, and they're like, "Who's Tony Montana?" I was like, really?
"Oh, I'm wearing my ironic, 'tis the season for fun Christmas shirts, and I got my McAllister's home security.
I actually have one on as well. Winter Soldier building a snowman, Captain America. So
I'm like, I like the people that are like, I don't know what that is. Why are you advertising it? I'm like, tell me you've never seen Home Alone without telling me you've never seen Home Alone.
All right, so we've We had a very interesting Monday Night Football game with the Rams upsetting the Cardinals here 32-23. Matt, the Rams get a huge win and Stafford looked great. What does this mean for the NFC West race?
I've thought for preseason and still most of the season that the Rams were going to end up winning the NFC West. They've really pushed their chips in kind of on 2021 with the moves to get OBJ and Von Miller. They went through kind of a valley there. In a surprise earlier this season when Arizona came into LA, they were able to get the win. So I was curious how this was going to go, but you saw kind of a vintage Rams performance. They looked really good on offense. Despite the fact they were missing some pieces on defense, they were able to do enough to disrupt the Cardinals. And I think it's a huge win. Now they're only a game apart in the division. They split their season series, so it's going to be really about how they close. Arizona is still a good team, still has a good, decent chance to win the West. I think the Rams are a little bit better, and I think in the end they're going to end up getting up there.
Yeah, I believe I picked them to win their division. But even if they don't, or even if they do, I think it's a good thing for the Rams. They seem to be peaking a little bit right now, which is good for them. And the Cardinals, obviously, we got news today as well. I think Hopkins is going to be out at least this week.
No, the rest of this regular season.
Ooh, I did not see that part. I only saw part of the tweet, so that makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, that is rough for any fantasy playoff teams. Good for them. I mean, they're making the playoffs. I don't see any way they don't now at this point. So maybe that it's better for them to just kind of rest Hopkins and get themselves ready for the playoffs. It'll be the first time in quite a while that Arizona's made the playoffs. So, but the Rams, they're looking good. Defense, OBJ's looked really good. He's catching everything, including COVID, like everybody else in the NFL at the moment. I mean, my God.
I know they said 75 already. Kind of makes you nervous going into this weekend. Who else is going to get popped out? It's been brutal.
I'm lucky in the fact that, they said 75. I'm pretty sure 50 of them are on the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, really, it's just like to spread out. Oh, my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. I don't even know if they have anybody left. They're talking about, I feel like it's half the coaching staff. They're like, yeah, our, analyst, scouting analyst is going to be calling plays for Kevin Stefanski because it's going to –
Well, now Washington football team has 18 out with COVID.
Heineke got put on there. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be rough. And the NFL's they've already come out said they're not postponing any of those games. But we'll talk more about that on Friday. I don't mean to sidetrack that joke. Connor shines again here for Arizona. How do we see the RB split now with Edmonds, who is coming back this week?
Yeah, and hopefully he comes back. I thought he was coming back last week, so I'm going to believe it when I see it at this point. I don't know if you watched all the way to the end of that Monday night game, but it looked like on the penultimate play, Connor caught the ball, and it looked very much like he got injured in some way. And when you see the replays, it looks like he's kind of barely hanging on. I think he, like the rest of the world, thought Kyler Murray was going to ground the ball and then have a time to gather themselves before the last play. And sort of, I was a little frustrated on the broadcast because you can see Connor hit the ground and is laying there and being attended to, as they are not talking about that at all, just talking about what the win means to the Rams. Not that we didn't want to celebrate for the Rams. They're saying now he has a little bit of an ankle injury, so that is going to bear watching. But they worked really well in tandem before. It seemed like Edmonds was kind of the lead guy. I feel like that's going to switch because Connor has played too well for too long to be kind of like just getting goal line snaps and just power running the ball, because he's done really well as a receiver for them too.
Yeah, I don't know that it goes back to it. I feel like Edmonds was getting more of the share before he got hurt, but Connor was getting all the red zone work, and that's why he's got 15 touchdowns on the season, which is just incredible. But I'm with you. With how good he's looked, I do think they'll back off of him a little bit, because that's kind of what hurt him in the past, though, too, right? Is he's got this huge workload. He ends up getting injured, and that's what's kind of bothering him. He ended up getting injured at the end of that game. Now, I don't think it was anything serious. I haven't seen much outside of, I know everybody's talking about, he ended up going into the tent at the end of the game. So hopefully he'll be fine. But I think that I think it'll be more of like a 50-50 split. But where I think Connor's going to have the edge is I think they'll continue to use him down in the red zone. So he's going to get those touchdowns. But that's kind of what it was earlier in the season too. So I think you can play both of them going into this week. I'm almost positive they've like come out and said Edmonds will play for sure this week. So I know you were kind of
Yeah,
hoping
well,
for
I
him
was
last
looking.
week. So
I was just looking at their latest injury report, and they said he's still progressing well, but they haven't removed him from the IR list. Which this is where we were last week. Everybody at this point in the week thought Chase Edmonds was playing. I was floored on Monday when they didn't take him off. So I mean, I think he's coming back.
So they've got very interesting things coming forward for them again with Hopkins being out now for the rest of the regular season.
Big blow.
Yeah,
Fortunately, they get Detroit this week, so even if Edmonds, that may be a reason why they end up deciding to just if Chase Edmonds comes back, they may decide to let Connor take a week off because
they can breathe it.
Detroit tries really hard, and I've been impressed with some of their players, but if that Arizona team can't win, they have other problems.
I don't know. I feel like that's like I know you don't mean it as like a veiled shot, but it's one of those things like when you're talking about something, it's like, look, they try really hard.
Well, I mean, they are trying really hard. They don't
Yeah.
Detroit does not have the talent.
Yeah,
I think Dennis, our friend Dennis, would be the first to say they don't have the horses. I've been impressed with the effort they've put forth, even when they're severely outmanned. But I think Dennis is right. DeAndre Swift probably not coming back.
Don't you dare say No, we're not putting that out into the
read the injury report. I don't think he's coming back. I just took him out of my lineups again.
I can't win week starting Kyle Juszczyk. I just can't. I need Swift back.
It might be time to play waivers.
I don't have anybody. It's a dynasty league. I had to get Kyle Juszczyk. Was all that was available. It was a Kyle Juszczyk and Amir Abdullah. That's who I had to play last week because Swift was out.
It's time to trade with somebody that's not in the playoffs that has like 8
trade windows. So it is
okay.
closed.
No one should have a trade deadline.
We can save that for an off-season thing, but I don't mind it. I kind of like it, just because I'm always where most of the dynasty leagues that we're in, this doesn't happen. But you always got that one owner that may or may not come back, and so I actually use it in my home dynasty league this past year. There's a guy who's in 2 of them that I run as commissioner. And he went all in to try and win last year, and he lost both of them. He got into the playoffs, but he lost in like the semifinals, and then he quit both leagues. And one of the teams, he left behind good teams for this year, but they're aging, and he has no draft picks for the foreseeable future. And a lot of people don't want to trade with the new owner because none of they're all aging players. Like, it's a bunch of guys that you're not going to have on your roster very long. Like, he went all in on Zeke and all these other players, and it's just like nobody wants to make moves. And so now this dude doesn't have a pick until 2024. And so it's one of those things like, okay, well, so that's why. And it was because we got close into the deadline, and then he's like, okay, well, I'm going all in. So I don't know. It's a good and bad. I see both sides of it. I kind of like not having, or I kind of like having one, just because it makes things, in my opinion, more interesting. Because you have to choose, you have to make that decision right before the deadline. And all of mine, it's week 11, so it's like right before. Or I'm sorry, this year is week 12 because the playoffs didn't start till week 14. So it's like, hey, you got 2 weeks before the playoffs start. You got to decide what you want to do. But yeah, if you do have one, it sucks when you have guys like DeAndre Swift, and because I also had J.K. Dobbins and I haven't had him all year, but it's just been one of those things where like all my running backs are, I got JT, baby. Maybe that's all I need to make a run into the championship. But you mentioned Swift possibly. I'm still holding out hope. Possibly not coming back. We'll see if he's actually rolled out. He may not be coming back. Why don't you give us your top 12 at each position for week 15?
All right, well, I'll start with quarterback. At number 12, I have Lamar Jackson. This isn't a dig at Lamar Jackson. I'm not convinced he's healthy. They keep saying he's going to go, but the Packers, not a incredible matchup. So I dropped him a little bit. With an ankle injury, you would think that would cut into maybe his ability as a rusher. Which will hurt. Number 11, Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to get up against Atlanta. Atlanta, I saw a stat, is number 2 in allowing points to quarterbacks, and they have not played a robust quarterback schedule. So a team that has red hot George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk, I'm playing their quarterback. 10 for me is Dak Prescott. I dropped him a little. They're playing the Giants. Not a terrible matchup. Number 9, Kirk Cousins. I saw what Rodgers did to the Bears defense last week, and I think this is a must-win game. The Vikings, every time we want to count them out, crawl back into that window for the playoffs. 8, I have Jalen Hurts, although this may be in flux because they said his ankle's still not better. I figured coming off of a bye, he would be a little better shape. And Washington's defense is obviously missing quite a few pieces, so that's becoming an attractive matchup. Number 7, Tom Brady. 6, Justin Herbert. 5, Patrick Mahomes, our 2 quarterbacks for the Thursday night game. I think that's going to be a good one. Number 4, Matthew Stafford. 3, Kyler Murray. 2, Aaron Rodgers playing Baltimore's non-existent secondary. I saw what he did to the Bears. Baltimore should be concerned. And number 1 for me is Josh Allen. They're playing Carolina, kind of a must-win game for the Bills. At running back, number 12, Joe Mixon going against Denver, so I dropped him a little bit. Number 11, David Montgomery. Seems to be the only part of the offense that they're feeding, both with carries and dump-offs. 10, Aaron Jones seems to be getting the red zone and touchdown work. 9, Cordero Patterson, who's just been solid. 8, Saquon Barkley. He usually plays pretty well against Dallas, and I think they're going to rely on him. Daniel Jones not looking to be back this week, and that passing game does not impress me. Number 7, Leonard Fournette. It's not an incredible matchup, but he's just so involved in all the phases. Same thing, number 6, Alvin Kamara. It's not a great matchup against the Buccaneers, but he is a huge part of their offense, and I think they'll throw to him as well. Number 5, Nick Chubb. The passing game for the Browns seems to all have got COVID. Number 4, Austin Eckler. 3, Najee Harris. 2, Dalvin Cook, who looked incredible last week. And number 1, in my heart, number 1 on all of our rosters, Jonathan Taylor. Then going to wide receiver, I have Tyler Lockett at 12. They're playing the Rams, so I think it'll be a little up-tempo. And Lockett seems to be the one that's doing better with Wilson than Metcalf, even though they've talked about trying to get Metcalf involved. It just seems like he's got eyes for Lockett when he's out there. Number 11, Jaylen Waddle. He's been super solid. They're playing the Jets, I believe, this week. Let me double check. Yes, they're playing the Jets. I knew there was a good reason I was all in on Miami. Number 10, Jamar Chase. I think I'm very curious to see. I would imagine he gets matched up with Patrick Surtain a lot, but 2 great rookie players. Number 9, Stephon Diggs. Number 8, Chris Godwin. 7, CeeDee Lamb. 6, Deontay Johnson. 5, Tyreek Hill. 4, Keenan Allen, who is off the COVID list now. At least some positive COVID news this week. Number 3, Justin Jefferson. 2, Devontae Adams. And number 1, Cooper Kupp. OBJ went on the COVID list. Van Jefferson's still there, but I think Kupp's going to get fed even more than he already does. Going to tight end, 12, I have Pat Freiermuth. 11, I went with Dalton Schultz. 10, Kyle Pitts. 9, Dawson Knox. 8, Dallas Goedert. 7, it looks like Darren Waller's coming back. I dropped him a little bit. I just don't totally believe in the Raiders, and I don't think this is going to be a particularly great game for them. But I guess I could be wrong. We'll see. Then I have TJ Hawkinson at 6, Mike Gesicki at 5, Rob Gronkowski at 4, Travis Kelce I dropped to 3. He's still been good, but he has not been super elite and super hot in every game, partly with the way that Kansas City's playing. Number 2, Mark Andrews, who's been rock solid. And number 1, George Kittle. From my lips to my SFB team's ears.
Yeah, congratulations to you. You're the only one out of all of us that made it. I missed by like 10 points. And it sucked because I started who was it? I started James Robinson and hoping that Urban Meyer was going to actually listen to Trevor Lawrence. That didn't work. And there was somebody else who didn't do much for me, and I ended up missing going into the next round by 10 points, which sucks. But hey, it's a lot better than only getting 3 wins, which is all I got last year. So it was a much better year for me in Scott Fishbowl.
Well, it's really, so I have Josh Allen and George Kittle, who are the big scorers, and I always remember about Aaron Jones. I have Swift on that team, so trust me, I wouldn't be sad if he plays. It just seems like they're tracking toward not letting him. I forgot that's a team where I have James Conner, which has made a huge difference. And even though some of the receivers I reached for didn't work out. I took Jaylen Waddle, and he's been super rock solid. And I believe I had Michael Pittman on there. So with those two guys, somehow I'm making the magic work.
Well, Matt, we are here at Week 15, the first round of the fantasy playoffs for most. And if you didn't make it, or if your team has been struck down with COVID like the Cleveland Browns and the Washington football team, what's another way that you can play fantasy football this week and make some money?
Well, football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily sports fantasy contests. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 or older in New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, on to the Thursday night football game, again, between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Should be a very good game. On the Chiefs side, we've got Chris Jones, Willie Gay, and L'Jarius Sneed, who are out.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, I mean, can they keep it going? This is a big game for them. So just to put this in perspective a little bit, they are one game up of the Chargers, and the Chargers beat them earlier this year in Arrowhead. So, I mean, they have that home win. And on top of that, I believe because the Patriots beat the Chargers, that right now, if the Chiefs were to lose, the Patriots would almost be a virtual lock in for the number 1 seed and the bye, unless they completely just shit the bed, because they would have to lose 2 or 3 of their last couple games to be able for the Chargers to jump them, because the Patriots have the head-to-head. So imagine a world where Tom Brady is not with the Patriots and they have mac and cheese and he's going to take them to a first-round bye. It's insane. But
Jonathan Taylor's going to beat him this week, and Josh Allen's going to beat him next week. So that's going to be a couple.
I don't know so much about that, but definitely I'm all aboard. If we can just push into existence another 50-point game from Jonathan Taylor, as I need him in the worst way in some of these leagues. So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it was all COVID is gone through the Chiefs defense. And one of the things I believe that was part of the reason why all those guys were out. And that's a real blow, because it's been the defensive resurgence, I think, for Kansas City that has really powered this turnaround, because they were 3-4 at one point in time. Now they're 9-4. They've been on a pretty good roll. It hasn't always been pretty, but that defense has really held up well. And you would like to have your defense going full steam ahead in a game against a fierce division rival in the Chargers, that you're also having to go on the road. Because like you said, Kansas City is ahead right now, but they lost that first game. And losing here wouldn't just mean a tie in the record. It would mean that you have lost a tiebreaker. And with all of these schedules down the stretch, they really can't afford that. So they're going to have to rely on, that offense making plays, and have to hope that the defensive personnel that they have left can make some plays too. The games that the Chargers have let get away are ones where we've seen Justin Herbert struggle and make a crucial mistake. And that's kind of where you would love your defense to be in a better shape. They're going to have to make some adjustments with those guys out, especially Chris Jones, who's been kind of the game wrecker up there on the front line.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them against that defense, because as you mentioned, they've been playing a lot better. That's kind of been the calling card almost of the Chiefs the past 5-6 weeks. Like we've all kind of been joking about them turning Patrick Mahomes into a game manager because they haven't really needed him to carry the team and do all the crazy stuff. He's just needed to be out there, distribute the ball because that defense has played so well. So it's going to be an interesting thing for them to see how they match up. We're about to get to the Chargers side here. It looks like Keenan Allen's going to be back. I mean, they look like they're going to have everybody for the most part. So I'm going to be very curious to see what that defense can do because we have seen Herbert for the most part, really great rookie season so far this year, has played well, but has had a couple games where he's really struggled. Curious if the Chiefs defense can make that happen again. They're in Los Angeles, so he is technically at home, although they seem to play better on the road for some reason, but they are technically was a SoFi Stadium, I believe is the name of the home stadium. So they'll be in SoFi. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them. On the Chargers side here, so you got Rashawn Slater, the left tackle, is out. Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Jared Cook, Donald Parham, Donald Parham, Derwin James are all questionable. The Chargers won the first meeting, as I mentioned earlier. What would a season swap mean? Or what would a win for the Chiefs here mean?
Yeah, so if the Chargers win this, now they go into first place by themselves because they would have that tiebreaker, which is good. I tried to slam it in there. I just noticed Asante Samuel just got added to the injury list too, which is arguably one of their best corners. So kind of a short week. It looks like Williams and the tight ends are tracking toward playing, but officially going into tomorrow night, Austin Eckler is going to be questionable. They said he's sore, but they need to make sure he's okay. That would be a huge loss, in my opinion. It's also huge to be missing Rashawn Slater. It's good for them that Chris Jones is out and that he was on the COVID list. I just went and double checked. But that is a big piece of their offensive line. And I wouldn't say their offensive line is incredible anyway, because we have noted a few times that Herbert gets put under quite a bit of pressure. He deals with it pretty well, but that would be tough. Keenan Allen no longer on the injury report, is off the COVID list, so he's good to go. That's great news. He has great chemistry with Herbert. They're going to need to be opportunistic. They're going to need to make some scores, and they have to avoid the big crucial turnover. It's hopefully James and Samuel can play because you would like to have two of your best secondary defenders going against Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as you mentioned, when you're talking about the tight end rankings, like Kelsey's been kind of held in check here as of late, but you definitely don't want him to be going up against like second and third string defenders because that's exactly when he's going to go off. I think this is a huge game for the Chargers. I mean, you just mentioned it. If they win here, it's a season sweep against the Chiefs. They take first place. I think that would be big for Staley and this team who earlier in the year, they looked like the best team in the AFC, then kind of struggled for a couple weeks. Herbert looked like, we talked about it a lot, right? Like, I even was getting on the train of like, man, is Herbert really having that sophomore slump I didn't think he was going to have? And then just like with the flip of a switch, went right back to the guy we saw earlier in the season. So it would be a massive, massive win for them. And I think the good thing that the thing that probably is going to help them is they're not dealing with the COVID issues like the Chiefs are. And so even though their defense hasn't been great either in the Chargers, I think what their strength is matches up with, I don't know if I would say it's the Chiefs' strength. It definitely is. I think their passing game is better than their running game. I mean, the Chargers' passing defense is very good where their rushing defense isn't. So I'm curious to see how that matches up. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked a little bit better since coming back. Darrell Williams, how much does he get involved? What will they be able to do? I mean, this is going to be a powerhouse of a matchup. I'm excited. I have not really had to stay up the latest Thursday games because they just haven't been great. I think I might actually have to stay up and watch this entire game because this could be a very, very good game. But I'm taking the Chargers. I mean, it's the fighting Justin Herbert. He was my MVP. Definitely get that wrong, but I did pick him to win the AFC West, and I think I've got a realistic shot of that looking and happening. So I'm going to take the Chargers.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way it goes. I'm taking the Chiefs. The Chargers are, I don't know if it's, ever since they left San Diego, they have not been a particularly good home team.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
agree with that. That's what I mentioned earlier. They definitely seem to play better on the road than they do at
yeah,
home.
Dennis agreed with you and took the Chargers, but part of me just feels like this is the classic. It's setting up for changing of the guard, and the Chiefs come in and win. It's like, well, it was kids. It's like it was Agatha all along. It was Patrick all along.
Yeah, so that is, we will be looking forward to that game tomorrow night. We will be back, Matt and myself, with Dennis on Friday to recap the Thursday night football game and preview the rest of Week 15, first round of the playoffs, hoping that we'll get some good news for once, because this past 24 hours has been brutal when it comes to COVID and everything. Hopefully we don't have a lot more players coming. Right now, Washington, at least, they've gotten hit with some offensive players and some defense, but as of right now, Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin are still likely, or Terry McLaurin, I think, is still in concussion protocol, so we won't really know much about that. But right now, Antonio Gibson's going to play. Who knows? I mean, 24 hours ago, Baker Mayfield wasn't going to have COVID, and then here we are. So let's hope for the best on some of this stuff, and we will talk to you guys, though, again on Friday. Enjoy the Thursday night football game between the Chargers